The year is 2025, and the ghosts of trade wars past are back to haunt us. The United States and Canada, two neighbors with a historically intertwined relationship, find themselves at odds once more. The issue? Tariffs, those age-old tools of economic warfare. Trump's aggressive tariff regime, targeting Canadian steel and aluminium in 2018, sent shockwaves through the global economy. Canada retaliated with tariffs of its own, targeting American goods ranging from ketchup to bourbon. The current dispute, though less explosive, is no less significant. It centers on access to Alaska, the vast American state geographically separated from the contiguous U.S. by Canada. The Alaska Highway, a vital artery for goods and people, snakes through British Columbia, placing the province at the heart of this escalating trade skirmish. The Alaska Highway, stretching over 1,387 miles from Dawson Creek, British Columbia to Delta Junction, Alaska, is more than just a road, it's a lifeline. Completed in 1942 as a military supply route during World War II, the highway has become a crucial artery for trade and transportation between Alaska and the lower 48 states. For Alaska, a state heavily reliant on goods transported by road, the highway is an economic umbilical cord. The Canadian portion of the highway, winding through the rugged landscapes of British Columbia and the Yukon Territory, represents a critical juncture in this supply chain. The imposition of tolls on commercial trucks traveling the Alaska Highway, as proposed by British Columbia's Premier David Eby, has raised concerns about potential disruptions to this vital artery. Trucking companies warn that tolls could further strain their operations, leading to delays and increased prices for consumers. Businesses in Alaska fear that increased expenses could erode their competitiveness and stifle economic growth. The proposed tolls on U.S. commercial trucks traveling to Alaska have ignited a firestorm of debate. Canadian officials maintain that the tolls are not intended as a punitive measure, but rather a necessary step to address the economic consequences of U.S. trade policies. Premier Eby, a staunch critic of Trump's protectionist policies, has framed the tolls as a response to the former president's economic bullying. He argues that Canada has a right to protect its interests and ensure a level playing field for Canadian businesses. The Canadian government has also pointed to the significant costs associated with maintaining the Canadian portion of the Alaska Highway. The highway, traversing remote and challenging terrain, requires constant upkeep and repair, placing a significant financial burden on Canadian taxpayers. Tolls, they argue, would help offset these costs and ensure that the burden of maintaining this vital transportation link is shared more equitably. The U.S. government, however, has condemned the proposed tolls as a violation of international trade agreements and a threat to the long-standing economic partnership between the two countries. David Eby, the Premier of British Columbia, is not known for backing down from a fight. A former human rights lawyer with a reputation for tenacity, Eby has emerged as a vocal critic of the United States trade policies and a staunch defender of Canadian interests. His decision to impose tolls on U.S. commercial trucks traveling to Alaska has thrust him into the center of a geopolitical maelstrom. Supporters applaud his bold stance, praising his willingness to stand up to American pressure and protect Canadian sovereignty. Detractors, however, accuse him of reckless grandstanding, warning that his actions could trigger a trade war with potentially devastating consequences for both countries. Eby, undeterred by the criticism, remains resolute in his conviction that Canada must assert its economic independence. The toll proposal, which requires legislative approval, has the potential to reshape the economic landscape of the region. It has also exposed the deep-seated tensions that simmer beneath the surface of the U.S.-Canada relationship. In the last frontier, the mood is one of cautious apprehension. News of the proposed tolls on commercial trucks traveling the Alaska Highway has sent ripples of concern through the state's business community. Alaska, with its remote location and reliance on goods transported by road, is particularly vulnerable to disruptions in the supply chain. The tolls, if implemented, could have a cascading effect on the state's economy, leading to price hikes on essential goods, delays in construction projects, and potential job losses. Small businesses fear that increased transportation costs could erode their already thin profit margins, forcing them to raise prices or shut down altogether. The tourism industry worries that the tolls could deter visitors and dampen the economic benefits of the summer travel season. The Alaskan government is exploring alternative transportation routes, such as increased shipping from Seattle, but acknowledges that these options are unlikely to fully compensate for potential disruptions on the Alaska Highway. As the standoff between Canada and the United States continues, Alaskans find themselves on the front lines of a trade war not of their making. The proposed tolls on the Alaska Highway have brought into sharp focus the interconnectedness of the North American continent. The dispute, while ostensibly about trade, has exposed deeper geopolitical tensions and raised questions about the future of cross-border cooperation. The United States, accustomed to its position as the dominant economic power in the region, is grappling with the reality of a more assertive Canada. The Trump administration's legacy of protectionism in America. First rhetoric has left a lingering bitterness north of the border. Canada is navigating the delicate balance between maintaining its close economic ties with the United States and asserting its sovereignty on the global stage. The tolls carry the risk of further alienating its largest trading partner and triggering a trade war with unpredictable consequences. The dispute has also highlighted the strategic importance of Alaska, both for the United States and for Canada. The current trade dispute between the United States and Canada over access to Alaska is not an isolated incident. From the early days of Confederation, when Canada sought to protect its nascent industries from American competition, to the present day, trade has been a source of both cooperation and conflict. The shadow of the Trump administration's protectionist policies looms large over the current dispute. Trump's decision to impose tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum in 2018, citing national security concerns, sent shockwaves through the global economy. While the tariffs were eventually lifted, the damage was done, leaving a legacy of mistrust and resentment that continues to color bilateral relations. The current dispute over the Alaska Highway tolls has rekindled memories of past trade battles, such as the softwood lumber dispute. These disputes have strained the economic and political relationship between the two countries, demonstrating the fragility of even the closest of partnerships when economic interests collide. As the standoff over the Alaska Highway tolls continues, the path forward remains shrouded in uncertainty. The possibility of a negotiated settlement, while still on the table, appears increasingly remote as both sides dig in their heels. The Biden administration has shown no indication of wavering on its support for American businesses and its opposition to the tolls. The Canadian government, facing mounting pressure from its own business community to resolve the dispute, is caught between a rock and a hard place. Backing down on the tolls would be seen as a sign of weakness, and could embolden the United States to take a more aggressive stance in future trade negotiations. However, allowing the dispute to escalate further risks triggering a trade war with potentially devastating consequences for the Canadian economy. One potential avenue for de-escalation could involve the United States offering concessions on other trade issues, such as dairy or agriculture, in exchange for Canada reconsidering the tolls. Another possibility is that the dispute could end up before the World Trade Organization, the international body responsible for regulating trade between nations. The Alaska Highway tolls have become a tangible symbol of the strained relationship between Canada and the United States. The dispute, while ostensibly about trade, has exposed deeper fissures in the bilateral relationship. The tolls, if implemented, would represent a significant escalation in trade tensions between the two countries, and could have far-reaching consequences for the North American economy. Businesses on both sides of the border are bracing for the worst, fearing that a trade war could disrupt supply chains, increase prices for consumers, and lead to job losses. The dispute has also highlighted the growing assertiveness of Canada on the world stage. No longer content to play the role of junior partner to the United States, Canada is increasingly willing to stand up for its own interests. The outcome of this dispute will have profound implications for the future of U.S.-Canada relations, and could shape the economic and geopolitical landscape of North America for years to come.